for less from you, my boy.
What's going on, everyone? Great Talon here, well, the voice of the Great Talon anyway, and today marks a very, very special day because the prey is the Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, the review. I finally beat it. I cannot believe it. It's a genuine triumph for me as I have finally toppled the relentlessly challenging one-armed wolf game known as Sekiro. So I'm just still in awe because this happened literally yesterday. So I'm just going to give you my review. Usually I do a little introduction with my, show my face and everything, but I'm trying to mix it up a little bit. But anyway, so this is Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice. In this title, you take on the role of the honorable shinobi, one-armed shinobi warrior, armed with a sword and a grappling prosthetic arm, set out on a quest to protect the one true young lord of the Sengoku era in Japan from those who wish to bring harm to him and rule the land. So now that I have finished the game, in turn, that means that it's time to pen my review for this latest Clash of Sword and Steel opus from the mind of Hidetaki Miyazaki and his team at From Software. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with Hidetaki Miyazaki-san's work, or if you're not familiar with From Software's work as well, they are responsible for the Demon Souls series, actually video game that came out, I think it was in 2008, and which was famous for being all their games have been, most of them, for the most better part of a decade or more, have been known for their challenge and their robust and relentless combat. So they're responsible, just a little backstory for Demon Souls, and of course the infamous 2011 title Dark Souls 1, which pretty much just is what the staple for their From Software series is known for. Demon Souls was like a cult classic, whereas I felt Dark Souls was actually more of a pinpoint in the series where it's what you're known for. Like if you hear From Software, a lot of people will say, "Oh, Dark Souls," but not Demon Souls, because like I said, Demon Souls is a cult following. But Dark Souls is pretty much what they're known for. Dark Souls trilogy, which was followed up by the Red Bastard Stepchild in 2014, Dark Souls 2. Which actually was not made by Miyazaki, or the creative director was not directed by Miyazaki-san, but it was his team at From Software penned the script and everything. He did oversee some of the artistic design and everything, but he didn't really do much for the game. And then, of course, in 2016, Miyazaki-san returned for Dark Souls 3 to finish off the trilogy. But in between that, the games are all great. I don't really hate on Dark Souls 2 as much as other people, but I really think they're all fantastic games, and they pose such a rewarding challenge and test you as the ability if you define yourself as a hardcore gamer, you're gonna really want to actually finish these games and experience them, because they will test every single moment and mantle of your skill as a video gamer, and your reflexes, your actions, your memorization, everything. It will test your ability, your senses. It will tweak the shit out of them. But the one thing that From Software was most famous for, well, for me anyway, I'm sorry, and even Sekiro can't take the mantle after I finished it. Bloodborne to me is still one of the best, if not greatest, From Software titles to date. I love everything about this game, the gothic setting, like the whole vampire, werewolf lore, the way the world is interconnected, the amount of like the weapons you get, everything. And this game is just, it excels. I beat it like twice. It's just amazing. Fast-paced, relentless combat, a regain HP system. It's really phenomenal, and you guys should check it out. But anyway, I know I'm straying off topic here, but just want to give you a little backstory from Software in case you guys are brand new to Sekiro, and you're curious about it. But anyway, so back to Sekiro. Anyway, like I was saying, all of my point here basically besides giving you a background history of From Software, is that I just wanted to showcase that all of the titles that they made in over a decade, the past decade, have been a multitude of significant David and Goliath-like challenges for the player to overcome, and all featured a sense of overwhelming accomplishment if you overcome the game's upward hill-like obstacles. Now, a lot of you out there may be wondering if this game is really impossible, like some say, to overcome, and rest assured, if a scrub like me can do it, you can too. Like, I mean, I've been playing these games for years, but at the same time, I don't consider myself that great of a game, like playing, experience. Like, I'm experienced, but I'm not, like, amazing at my craft. I just, I'm, like, average, I guess you can say. But, with that being said, I mean, at the end of the day, in the great debate about whether or not games like Sekiro or Dark Souls even should have an easy mode, I mean, let's join me, and together we're going to dive in and find out in Sekiro which side of the argument holds more of a firm ground, whether games like this should have an easy mode, or you should just simply get good and get better at the game to overcome the challenge. Okay, so graphics are up first as usual. In terms of scope and scale, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice can be breathtaking at times. The environments are traditionally rendered within the Sengoku era of Japan as well. From cherry blossom trees to smokestack temples to even an ancient architecture of the triple and quadruple tiered buildings, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice will make you feel like you have warped back in time to the 15th century. Character models, on the other hand, while rendered realistically for the time period, outside of the cutscenes, some characters, when panned out, can look a bit wonky on and off at times. While it is not a major issue, it has somewhat become a staple in most From Software titles, which seem to focus less on visuals and more on the combat and gameplay core mechanics aspect. I was playing on a PS4 Pro and the game displayed in a vibrant HDR setting and upscaled to 4K, but the true output was roughly around 1800p, I believe. The performance of the engine was pretty solid too, with the frame rate on the PS4 not dropping or dipping too much below the low 30s, I'd say like 33, 34 frames per second at times during the most intense action sequences, and it can go up to in the high 40s, maybe lower 50s at a maximum frame rate. Overall, the graphics and performance are solid, and honestly, whether you're kicking back to admire and suck up the culture of one of the most brutal times in Japanese history, or are you just running around like a shinobi ninja warrior slicing, clashing, and death-blowing enemies, your eyes will be left feeling more than satisfied along the way. Alright, so now we're going to dig into the true meat of the game, folks, ladies and gentlemen, lentilmen, the gameplay and the controls. So, where this will either make or break most of you, for the most part. Now, why is that, you might be asking? Well, it lies in the combat, okay? So, first of all, I would just like to go on record for saying that this game, like Dark Souls, if you play this game like Dark Souls or Bloodborne or Demon Souls, you're gonna have a really, really, really bad time. And why is that, again, you might be asking? Well, the game does not play like Dark Souls, okay? The game does not play like Bloodborne. The game does not play like Demon Souls. The game plays like Sekiro. So, you know how people compare things and say, oh, you know that game Sekiro? Yeah, it's just like Dark Souls. Yeah, play it like Dark Souls. Yeah, treat it like Dark Souls. No, you can't. You will have a fucking terrible time with this game. I can guarantee you. If you try and if you try and dodge to the back or roll to the back while blocking and dodge rolling to try and get a backstab, you will fucking die every single time. It's not meant to be played that way. Now, with that being said, the gameplay is like Sekiro. The sooner you come to terms with that, the better off you will be and the more fun you will extract from this game. Okay? So to be quite honest, it took me half the fucking game to realize, because I was playing it up until the Genichiro fight, which I'm going to showcase in a little bit. I was playing it like fucking Dark Souls and Bloodborne even. So, and I was having a fucking piss poor time. Like, this was the first fight on screen right now, Lady Butterfly. The first real boss fight. And it may look like I'm doing good right now, but honestly, like, she is going to start kicking my ass in a minute. She gives me the fucking business. The business, boy. So like I said, so the moment you stop treating it like a Soulsborne game and start playing it like Sekiro, you're gonna have a fantastic time. Now, sure, it's easy to say that, but what the fuck does that mean? Play the game like Sekiro? Well, I'm gonna break it down for you. Okay, don't worry, I got you. Great Talon's here. He's gonna help. For starters, I think if you think that you're simply going to, like I said, block, dodge roll, and get behind any and all opponents to pull off that sweet, sweet backstab, you're in for a world of fucking pain, suffering, and death. Like this right here on screen.
What is it? Pain, suffering, death, I feel.
But instead, okay, Sekiro relies solely on the fact of it's not designed this way of just backstabbing and all that shit that you learn from Dark Souls and Bloodborne. It's instead, like I said, relies on getting up in your fucking enemies' faces, parrying going blow for blow with their swords, spears, axes, etc. in order to counter with a death blow of your own, which is essentially a one-hit kill with the press of a button. Now, you can achieve this. And also stealth, before we get into this, I just want to say that stealth plays a big part in the game too. You can actually sneak up on a lot of your enemies like you just saw on screen and get a free death blow on most of them. And most of the mini bosses are set up this way. Major bosses are not. You can sneak in reeds, grasses, under buildings, so on and so forth, in caves. And you can sneak up behind many of your opponents and get one-hit kills on them. That is kind of like the balance where, like, you know, if you can, hey, if you're going to sneak up on them, fuck it, fine. Get the free kill. But if you want to go face-to-face, you better hope to God you know how to parry and counter and go blow for blow. And you can achieve this parrying system of going blow for blow by breaking an enemy's posture, which is indicated at the bar at the top center of your screen, that's the enemy's posture. Now, how you break their posture depends on the timing of your blocks, which if you block at the perfect time, when the sword touches yours, you stagger them a bit, increasing the buildup of their posture meter, and in turn, degrading their footing and their balance, throwing them off balance and such. But in turn, you are also set up with the posture bar at the bottom center of the screen as well. Now, enemies can break your posture also if you just sit there holding the block button, thinking you're just going to wait for your foe to tire themselves out. But in reality, it is you who will reach fatigue faster from holding down the damn block button. Until your posture just breaks and you're left open, wide open, getting hit, being freaking spanked, buttered, and creamed by your opponent. So basically, what you really want to do, I mean, it leaves you open to fatal blows if you just sit there holding block. So you have to just, basically what you really need to do in this game is learn how to time their blows, like when they strike, tap the block button, tap it. And that way it will force them to deflect deflect their attacks, so you can build up their posture meter faster, and in turn take them out like a fucking champion. And there are various enemy types as well, like I've shown on screen already, ranging from sword wielding dudes to spear thrusting bros to even big fucking bell wielding enemies and bat swinging giants. All of which can be taken down in various and numerous ways. Certain bosses required certain ways and methods of taking them down. Like you see here, I had to posture break the guard and then kick him off the ledge. And of course here we have the Wolverine, a human centipede boss. Now, all of these various enemy types can pretty much be beaten in different ways. Like I said, like right now you see I'm using the umbrella to deflect his attacks. Now, another indication that you saw that red indicator on screen just now. Now that's an unblockable, or you cannot evade or block that attack when that red icon appears on the screen. But what you have to do instead is, for example, he just went to go swipe me and sweep me. And so I had to jump over it and counter with a move of my own. So basically for sweeping attacks, you just jump and double hit them in the face. And if there's a thrusting attack, what you want to do is you want to press, there's the skills you can unlock. It's called the Mercury counter, where you can hit circle and you can basically just parry them and hopefully break your posture enough you can death blow them. So with that being said, if you thrust attacks, like I said, can be if you upgrade. There's upgrade skills too. There's the Mikiru counter move, which you just saw a couple of times on screen. You hold circle when you see their thrust coming in, and you just pretty much just fucking you kick. You can you press the circle or B button and you stomp their thrusting weapon with your foot and follow up with an attack of your own. And speaking of the skills, Wolf can unlock a variety of upgrades by collecting XP points by defeating enemies in the field. They range from counterattacks to special moves such as Whirlwind Slash and Overhead Heavy Swing, which can be achieved by equipping the combat arts and pressing R1 and L1 at the same time. Now, some of these combat arts cost spirit emblems to use, which are basically your ammunition for your prosthetic arm and for your special moves that require spirit emblems. For not only the combat art skills, but the prosthetic arm mods as well. So you can obtain spirit emblems too by purchasing them for gold, or rather sen, the currency in the game. And also, you can collect sen from various enemies. The prosthetic arm can be upgraded with different mods, most of which are found in the landscape somewhere. And some can actually be bought from merchants as well. They range from Shoryuken mods to heavy spring-loaded axes to even firecrackers, which is arguably the best and most useful weapon in the game. Just pretty much spam the firecrackers, watch you just freaking fake out your opponents like the monkey here on screen. Just throw the firecrackers, watch them go blind, and just fucking spank them. Not like this though, because I fucking failed at this fight. But also the umbrella mod you saw when I fought with the human centipede, it's actually my second favorite weapon in the game. And you can actually unlock a skill later on that pretty much just, it allows the prosthetic arm like the umbrella, the axe, and so on and so forth to be used as a melee weapon as well. If you hold the R2 button, like for example with the umbrella, you block, you press L1 to deflect attacks and so on, and then at the end, after you gather enough, if you're blocking their attacks and the energy, you press the R1 button, the attack button, and it throws the energy back at them, which I think is fucking pretty awesome. But yeah, anyway, moving along. So, these mods can also be upgraded with materials, which can be farmed, like in previous Soulsborne titles, off of enemies found just by traversing the environments and picking up the items along the ground. You can also purchase upgrade materials from vendors over time, too. And while you cannot upgrade your sword or change your primary weapon in this game, which a lot of people are pissed about because they're thinking, like I said, they think this game is a fucking Dark Souls clone where you get different builds, different mods. No, this is a brand new IP, people. This is a brand new video game from the mind of Hidetaki Miyazaki. And it's a different path than the Dark Souls or Bloodborne games, and you must respect his vision. What you are given, such enhancements for your sword as you progress through the story, though, making you a more powerful force to trifle with. So, you are giving upgrades. You're just not getting the build you want to take out your freaking enemies with the cheese that you're used to. Just know that you're given enough upgrades along the way for your prosthetic arm, and you are given upgrades to the sword. Don't get me wrong. The sword evolves with the story. I don't want to spoil anything, but the sword becomes fucking relentlessly powerful as you progress late into the game. Now, you can also upgrade your defense too, and your posture, by obtaining prayer beads from mini-bosses, and also by obtaining memories. But actually, if you enhance your attack power, is increased by the means of defeating major bosses like the one on screen here, the Corrupted Monk. After I beat the Corrupted Monk, I will get his memory of the bosses, the battle memory. Now, what you do with that is you pray at the shrines like you did for like Dark Souls with bonfires and stuff, or you just go back to you just light a like in Bloodborne where you light the lanterns, but you just pray at the shrine, and what you can do is you can choose to upgrade your defense and posture by giving over 4 prayer beads at a time. 4 prayer beads equal 1 upgrade for your attack, your defense and posture, and for your attack, 1 battle memory is required for an attack upgrade. Why is it a 4-to-1 ratio? Because it requires, in order to get your defense up, it requires 4 prayer beads because there's a ton of mini bosses in the game for you to take down. You get prayer beads off of them like candy. But battle memories, there's only like 15 bosses in the game, so the ratio is a little spread out. So that's why, you know, their attack, you know, they really want your defense to get higher than your attack because they really want you to fucking be defensive. The best offense is a good defense, like they teach you in sports. So, you know, hey, if you're on the Yankees or whatever in the Mets, and you got a great, or Red Sox or whatever, and you got a great pitching team, great bullpen, you're going to do phenomenal in the season because a great defense, a great offense is the best defense, having the best defense. So, with that being said, I just want to let you know that, you can, like I just said before, there's 14 or 15 major bosses in the game. There's about 25 or more mini bosses. And for each of the mini bosses you defeat, like the Red Eyes Goshen here on screen, you get a prayer bead. And you get some other things too as well. Some other goodies drop from them too. But, oh, by the way, Red Eyes, guys, they are weak to fire and they are fucking hard as shit to fight. I mean, the game is challenging enough, but these guys they just fucking spank the shit out of you. As you can see here, I'm getting whooped. But in the end, though, initially, evil is always overcome. But yeah, mini bosses in the game can pretty much range from, you know, you got your double sword wielding enemies, and you get your spear bros like you see here on screen. I mean, you know, they range from those lavishly samurai generals to the drunkards that you saw me fight, and also the the beasts of burden and the currently undisputed heavyweight champion of the wrestling world in the Sengoku era of Japan, the red-eyed ogres, which you fight like 3 or 4 of these, and the first one took me about 40 tries to kill because I just started the game and I was terrible. I'm not much better now, but I have gotten significantly better. Like, this is the second ogre fight. I literally took him down in like under 2 minutes, and it was because I was fully lock, stock, and loaded. I had fire coming out of my ass. I had a freaking health bar the size of the state of California, and I was just fucking. I was in pimp mode. I was in pimp status mode here. But you know, like I was saying before, that by collecting 4 of the prayer beads from each of these mini bosses, you get 1 prayer bead per mini boss. Collecting 4 of them, you upgrade your defense and so on and so forth. You know, many boss fights, you know, the major boss fights, on the other hand, you know, such as the Guardian Ape fight. You know, you fight this guy twice, and every time you fight him, you get battle memories for each time, as well as the second time you fight him, you kill him twice. You get not only do you get a battle memory, which is nice, but you also get a nice prayer bead as well. Yeah, so these, you know, they all will give you a run for your money challenge-wise if you were not careful and do not study their attack patterns. Remember, folks, all of the enemies in this game are pre-programmed. This guy did the same move 7 times already, as you can see on screen. So you build the posture up as much as possible, and you keep your distance, and you just take your time. Patience is key here. There's no rush. There's no time limit to these battles unless you're doing boss rush mode or you're trying to impress a friend with a speed run. There's really no reason to rush through any of these games. You know, just take your time. Everything will come with patience. Patience is a virtue in this game. And that's the real test. The real test is the endurance and your stamina. Some of these fights, they went on for a ridiculously long amount of time. And, you know, like this fight here, I'm just showing you bits and pieces, but this fight here took me about 14 minutes. I mean, and this other fight, the owl fight part 2 here, took me like 35, maybe 40 tries, and I almost gave up on it. I just beat it on a whim. Now, what you have to do, though, is you have to think of the combat as in a sense of a form of interpretive dance, as it is set up like the player to memorize their rhythmic patterns and successfully outmaneuver and outthink them, so to speak. Okay? And since there is no co-op mode in the game, like in Dark Souls or Bloodborne, you are forced to do it on your own and simply get better at the game. You are also equipped with the power of resurrection. Now, what does that mean? That means that if you are at first glance toppled by a foe and killed, you can press the R1 button and revive with half your health bar. And you get that back and you can get back right into the action. You can resurrect one time, but as you can see on screen now, my resurrections are actually shaded out because I actually did resurrect. But once I get a death blow on this guy here, my resurrect will come back and it will return to me. You may also not, like I said, not resurrect more than once until you death blow an enemy, in which your bubble then begins to fill up again, your little pink bubble. You get a total, by the mid game, you get a total of 3 resurrective bubbles, and can resurrect up to 3 times at once, depending on which boss you are facing. The later game bosses have 3 HP bars, which allows you to resurrect a total of 3 times during each phase of the fight. So if you die, let's say you die here. Excuse me, you can't die here. So let's say I'm about to get a death blow on this guy. I get a res back, and if they have 3 health bars, you can get a res each phase of the boss fight. You can also regain your HP other ways, by eating pellets or rice, or there's even a skill that you can unlock by gaining a certain percentage of HP back for each death blow you perform on an enemy. The most useful skill, in my opinion, is that one. Because every time, if you're in a jam and you're getting ambushed by enemies and you just need a quick fucking death blow, you could just find the weakest scrub in the field and just deflect his attack and break his posture and just death blow him and you get like a good, maybe about 10% of your HP back, which is still better than nothing. So, the controls, on the other hand, are really crisp and tight and responsive, as you might imagine they would have been in order to keep up with the relentless onslaught from foes in the battlefield. Maneuvering Wolf around the map too is slick and fluent as well. There is now a jump button for the first time in a recent From Software title. And you can pretty much just grapple onto ledges, whatever has a grappling hook, and you just jump around, and it's pretty fun. It's actually such a great, just simple yet effective feature to have a grappling hook, and it makes you feel like fucking Batman too, which is awesome. There's also an upgrade you can unlock too over time that allows you to grapple to enemies and follow up with a quick slash too, which is pretty useful. But I really feel, unfortunately, that this skill is not utilized that much in the game as much as I feel it should have been. Overall, the game, though, plays and controls remarkably as any other FromSoft game to date, if not the tightest presentation thus far in terms of delivering a uniquely robust, challenging, and rewarding combat experience that is not meant for everyone, but we'll touch on that in a bit. Now, story, narrative, and campaign. Unlike most other Soulsborne games, which featured more of a cryptic, create-your-own philosophy type of narrative, Sekiro actually has a somewhat scripted tale that anyone should be able to grasp without consulting to Reddit or YouTube for help. The story begins with Wolf, a shinobi warrior who has fallen in the field after a battle and losing his left arm. It is then shown in the opening cinematic cutscene of him dying, but then soon being resurrected by the power of a young future Lord Kuro, by using his supposedly immortal blood of the dragon, which is heavily sought after by main antagonists in the game. Without spoiling too much more, just be prepared for a quest of survival and protecting a young lord from the forces of evil who wish to harvest him, like a ripe crop of like a freaking pumpkin, to use his blood to gain immortality, conquer and rule Japan. It's not the most engrossing or engaging tale or emotional tale, but it does have its moments, especially when there is an intense dialogue between Wolf and some of the more major bosses encounters within the game. There's about 4 endings also to the story, which you can obtain too, depending on your various paths, and you can opt to and find to take, or while exploring and finding certain key items in the overworld.
Wolf, you found it. Now let us leave this place.
Yes, my lord. Father.
It's you. I'm afraid I made a bit of a blunder. Perhaps the years have finally caught up with me.
Okay, so the sound effects are just as gritty as they are explosive, with clashing of blades and metal and piercing and impaling cries and screams. That sounds like you're damn near in a warring state of Japan back in the day. Imminent sounds of timed action events too are heart-pounding and thrilling to say the least. The music is derived from an original score that will ship you right back to feudal Japan as soon as you hear the whimsical tunes of a flute or chimes playing while traversing the landscape, or when a gong or drum is pounding during that intense action segment. The voice acting can be hit or miss here depending on which language you choose at the main menu. If you choose English voice acting, some characters may sound off-putting at times. However, if you select a native tongue of Japanese dialogue, you will feel like you're watching a tough-as-nails old-school samurai ninja spaghetti western-style flick from the 70s, with a deep emphasis on dramatic dialogue tones during the interactions and cutscenes throughout the game. Wolf sounds like he has seen some serious shit, and he would not recommend it one bit. The supporting cast makes their just dues as well as the plot unfolds as you descend deeper and deeper into the belly of the beast as you await the end of the game. Excuse me, I meant that await you by the end of the game. Sorry about that. And now we come to replay value. Now, remember earlier on in this review when I said we will touch on the game not being made for everyone in a bit? Well, the bit has come now. I will explain now what that means. Okay, so From Software has always been known since 2008 when Demon's Souls launched to make challenging yet rewarding video games. A tough but fair system that carried on over into its future titles, and yes, is thoroughly present within Sekiro as well. I mean, just look what's happening on screen right now. I don't know if you can see, I have no healing items left. I'm down to a smidgen of health, and this guy has given me a total run for my money, but I finally did it after 500 tries. Now, with that being said, the last boss fight I'm going to showcase here as we wrap things up was the hardest in the game. It took me a million tries to do, with no exaggeration. It was like a 4-phase fight. It was insane. But anyway, staying back on track. Now, all of these games are challenging yet rewarding. Okay, a tough but fair system. That means you will be faced with a vast amount of difficult encounters and fights that will require you to outsmart your opponents by memorizing their attack patterns to find an opening for an attack, or in Sekiro's case, getting really good at learning the posture mechanic to counter and death blow your enemies. There is no happy medium here. It is either kill or be killed type of scenario most of the time. The game is possibly the hardest video game I've ever played in my entire life, and that is no exaggeration. The only other game that can hold a candle to Sekiro is Ninja Gaiden 2, which came out on the Xbox 360 years ago. You will find yourself dying in just one or two swings sometimes, especially on the later boss encounters in the game. I recall being stuck, like I said, on the Owl Father boss I just showed at the Fire Estate for days, because he hit like a fucking truck and he moved faster than the Roadrunner on freaking amphetamines at times. However, with that being said, if you feel like you are up to the task and the challenge, then I can almost assure you, okay, that this game, at the end of all the hazardous, death-filled rainbows, is that overwhelming sense of sheer nirvana and joy and sense of accomplishment like you have never felt before in your entire life. You damn near feel fucking empowered after beating a boss that you have been stuck on for days, if not weeks at a time, and quite invincible. So in terms of replay value, it will be highly varied here, depending on your tolerance for a tough, yet fair and balanced, well-balanced combat system. And in the end, you will find about a 50 to 60 hour journey if you decide to do what I did with most of the side quests. Although, you speedrunners out there, I know you motherfuckers are finishing the game under an hour. I just saw one that was under 30 minutes, you sick fucks, sick bastards. But like I said, there's about 4 different unique endings to acquire, one of which requires a second playthrough or save scumming. Now, what I mean by save scumming. Okay, save scumming is basically, you have to pretty much just upload your save to a cloud, like PS4's cloud service, Xbox has a cloud service, or a USB to reload it and reload that save that on the file, a disk, or a cloud later on to obtain all the endings. I got 3 out of the 4 endings because I did save scumming on PS4. frown on me if you want. I wanted to see what happened like 3 times. But the 4th ending is ridiculous. The hardest ending is the shortest ending, of course. We have to fucking fight some fire lord. This guy that I'm fighting right now, you have to fight him in a fire form that he literally has a fire attack that fills up 95% of the screen, giving you little time to react. I think it's freaking ridiculous. Now I'm going to try and topple that out on my second playthrough. But anyway, with that being said, lastly, in terms of replayability, you may find yourself going back though for more. There's quite a bit of upgrades to obtain and skills to unlock, and for you completionists out there as well, a fairly decent amount of trophies and or achievements to obtain, most of which are pretty easy to be had for the most part. And now, folks, the finale overall score, and is it worth your time? I'm going to have to give this, even though I had a ton of trouble with this game in the beginning, I'm going to have to give this a 9 out of 10. Despite a rather large learning curve for some, really infuriating moments, and in terms with some really times where you just want to fucking give up, the reward outweighs the frustration in my opinion with this one. And as always, it seems that Miyazaki-san and his team at FromSoft are masters of their craft. The only thing that stops this game from getting a perfect 10 would be the inclusion of some late game multi-tiered boss fights like the one you see on screen here. This was a fucking 4-phase fight. It's insane with no breaks or checkpoints, and it took me about, no exaggeration, I won't exaggerate, it took me at least 50 tries before taking this guy down who's on screen right now. Other than that, Miyazaki-san has done it again, and I put Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice in my top 3 video games so far of 2019, right up there with Resident Evil 2 and Devil May Cry 5. Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice is a triumphant, relentlessly challenging, yet highly satisfying action-adventure title that will more than scratch your Ninja Gaiden or even Onimusha itch time and time again. So with that being said, that's my review. I know it's a half-hour review, but I had a lot to say about this game because I love it. I think it's one of the greatest new IPs out there, and it's extremely challenging, like I said, and rewarding. So with that being said, let me know what you guys think of the review. If you like it, give it a thumbs up. If not, give it a thumbs down. And why not drop a comment or subscribe if you want to see more. I got a couple more reviews coming up, as more is my episodic series as well. So with that being said, you guys have a great day. And I will talk to you later.